All right, everybody. We are live with another Pokemon Rants. This week, we dive into the deep with Opossum Bud, keeping the Pokemon streets clean by exposing the evil doers and shedding light where most don't want to look, and even worse, some don't even know. Opossum has dedicated his content creation to the betterment of the community while adding a touch of humor and even sometimes insult, perhaps just for fun. Today, we'll look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Pokemon hobby with Pokemon Wonder and Opossum Bud. Thanks for joining, Nick. Really appreciate it, man.
Well, no problem, Justin. Appreciate you having me.
So we'll actually just kick it off actually to know you a little bit, because I typically do some research and I look at your videos, and I typically have people on that I already watch or that I enjoy listening to. And yours goes back quite, I don't know, a couple of years, but you started off really playing some games, talking about what your thoughts were. You had some mix of course, the cards you were opening. But tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the hobby, Opossum.
Oh yeah, no worries. By the way, swearing probably not a good thing. I've actively been trying to be like, hey, don't do that on someone's. Just if I let one slip, is that okay?
It's all good. All good.
I'll try my best.
I'm not here for monetization. I'm here for fun.
Feel that. Opossum Bud, Nick, just got back into the hobby a while ago. I've been collecting on and off for a little bit. Used to be poor as hell. Job didn't really pay super well, so I picked up packs back in like the day where you could. Diamond Pearl, Black and White. Took a little break for a while. Ended up getting some more stuff when things started settling down. Got a little bit more stable. Got a little older. So got back in around the late XY time frame. Started picking stuff back up then, and then just picking up stuff more and more and more. Was collecting English for a while, mostly to play and things like that. I used to play not crazy hardcore, but enough to be familiar with current metas and stuff like that. All right. Kind of moved to Japanese completely. I'd always collected Japanese here and there because I like the cards, and being military background, there was just something I'd seen before where people would bring them in, like when I was a kid, and be like, yo, what's that? And they'd explain, and then trade occasionally for them and be like, well, it's cool. So I had a little experience with them. I kind of really got into it. Once again, like 2017 time frame, did research going a little bit further back. And they were just, the appeal to that's always been they were cheaper up until recent times where the whole meta just flipped on itself. It's still nuts. I could go on for like an hour about how it still blows my mind how prices just did this. But yeah, I collected Japanese for a little while for doing that stuff almost exclusively. I still do, but I've been definitely hopping back in other stuff just because prices and things like that. It's ridiculous what Japanese has done. On one hand, I get it, like from where people want it. There's not very much of it's made for specifically people in Japan first, and the demand for it just exploded at the same time. It's just still nuts, just how it is. But yeah, that's me in the hobby. Currently collecting basically Korean, English, Japanese, Chinese, simplified. Anything that I can get a hold of that I think is an all right price to
fair price,
I'm not picky anymore.
It's okay.
I used to be kind of a little bit of a Japanese is like really cool, but that was even before like the price hike bullshit. Oh, excuse me.
But it didn't last very long. But we were like, what? Man, 3 minutes in. 3 minutes in.
I'm sorry. I'm actively trying not to.
No worries, man. You be you. I'm not here to change who you are, man. Yeah, we're just here to talk about it. Did you get rid of your English collection when you started to transition, or
So no? I have an Instagram online where I've been posting on there for a while, and I did have a bunch of English cards on there and stuff too. And it's not so much that I got rid of them; it was more I kind of like sold them to people on there to fund the Japanese collection. The big thing I was doing is I had a ton of English full art trainers and stuff like that, so I kind of swapped that over so I could get the ones in Japanese because it was cheaper, actually, weirdly enough at the time. Like no shit, I remember like Wick, and especially because I was looking at Wick recently. She's like $400 or $500 in Japanese, and she was like $10 for like a long time. So I was looking at that. I made the swap over. I had a bunch of Hidden Fate stuff. I had Tag Team. I had XY. Had Black and White, and I just kind of moved that over to fund the stuff. And I gave people deals where I could. It was like, yeah, I'm just trying to get this here and
swap
there.
It
so for what the price of the card was in Japanese, typically is what I try to put it at.
Okay.
So I could make the swap. But yeah, I did. I used to have a lot, and I got rid of some of it.
So then you focused 100% on Japanese almost, and then you now expanded out just to fulfill the books and the prices.
Now I can't be picky. Now it's like, man, just it's not an easy picking grounds anymore. You just gotta take what you can get. And honestly, the art for me usually is most important. I will still say that English quality leaves a lot to be desired sometimes, but I mean, I don't even grade cards, so that's what do I care about the quality anymore?
A little bit of whitening doesn't hurt anybody anymore, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's on the back of the card. Only I know.
Yeah, it's in the binder. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't even see it. Tell me, what was it like for you as a child, Nick? Were you playing like everybody else, kind of in the hobby, and so you were in it?
Huge into it. I've been playing the games for as long as I can remember. Like basically, I started with blue. I got gold, silver, all the way up, and even as an adult, I remember being in basic training, just getting out of it and going to like technical school. And I got my DS, and I remember that's when black and white came out. Was when I had just graduated, so I was rocking black and white at that time. I remember some of the other people that were there being like, "Oh, this nerd's still playing Pokemon. Look at this fool." I was just like, "Shut up, man! I'm still playing it." Like it's that whole thing.
I'm cool, man. I'm still cool.
I didn't really care. I wasn't cool. I was already like married and stuff like that, so I didn't give a fuck. I wasn't trying to.
Those days are over then.
I was like, I don't care. What's the matter to me?
Say what you want, guys. Say what you want. I'm going to go play games. See you tomorrow.
I've been doing that forever. Childhood, I collected a lot of the cards. I collected Yu-Gi-Oh cards a lot back in the day too. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how to still currently play with the meta. I tried keeping up with that recently. It's rough. The pendulums, the XYZs, there's another archetype too. Someone tried to explain it to me recently, and I was having a hard time following. But yeah, I used to play. I used to collect toys. Used to have the whole shabam, like everyone's childhood. I had a lot more cards from my childhood, but they just mysteriously vanished at one point. So
that's too bad. That's too bad, man.
It is. What happens?
Do you still play TCG at all? I know you still play games, probably, right?
I keep up with the metas still. Like I actually still try to see what decks are still running good and what's what's still good in the actual metas and stuff like that. So I do keep up with that. I just haven't actually built a deck in a minute. I used to pre-pandemic. Like I actually had a group of friends that was here. We'd go to GameStop. We'd go to local card places. We'd do the build and battle events. And we'd hang out there and do that stuff. A lot of them either moved away, PCS'd, or they're gone. So don't really have the people to play with anymore.
What state are you in?
Arkansas.
Okay. All right. Yeah, man, you should get into it. It's fun. I've been talking about it on most of my streams. It's been really enjoyable. My kids play, I play, my wife plays. We really enjoy it. It's a blast. Last
time I played is when like ADP and Zacian was still around. Like before that, I was pretty heavy in like tag teams, like the XY, the Rayquaza, the cheeky decks like Raticate, Break, all the ones before that. The nice little budget Entei that was going around for a while. I remember that one kicking some butt. I do need to pick it back up though. I've been meaning to.
And we jumped on here at the end of the year and the beginning of this year with the Lugia decks. I mean, those are still they still have a little. They're still pretty heavy in terms of popularity, but they're getting pushed out. Yeah, they're still pretty good, and they're easy to play, especially if you're somewhat new and learning. It's not too complicated. It's not like some of the other decks with Comfy and going through the details of the
lost box.
Yeah,
decks
the lost zone. Those are tough.
I get the concept of how it's supposed to work. It's just like I'd have to actually sit down and look at it.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet. To be honest, I haven't built the deck. I haven't given it a try, but I'm like, no, not yet. I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
One more time.
Yeah, that's exactly. So you really then kept it throughout your entire childhood, all the way up through adulthood. You never really stopped then. You transitioned a few times, but you never stopped.
Yeah, never really. Just had stuff here and there. Like I'd either be watching the anime, playing the games. Every time a game released, I played it. XY, Sun and Moon, all the way up. I've always picked it up and played it. Cards here and there because like card prices and where things were to get stuff. And I don't know. It used to be way cheaper. Now it's like thinking back on it, it's crazy because I remember telling people, man, XY stuff used to be on sale for days. Like you used to be able to get like ETBs, like the Breakpoint ones. Breakthrough, dude. I remember them sitting at Walmart for like $30, $25 each at one point.
Wow,
it was nuts.
Wow, not anymore, buddy.
And even then, I was like, "Ooh, that's a little steep for me." Grabbing like one where I can. Like, it was rough.
It's like, no, I'll get that later. It's too high. I'll wait till it goes on clearance and Christmas.
Now I'm buying like $300 worth of singles, and it's like, well, what's crazy.
Do you crack packs or you focus more on singles now that you bring it up?
A little bit. I have a few where I'll get like Japanese products every now and again. I try to wait for them to be cheap and as close to what they can be as they could. Back in the day when it was like $40-$50 a box to get them in, all day. Used to crack them all the time. Used to do openings with them. I've been trying to get back into it where I can. Raging Surf. That's I've had people ask if I'm gonna open that, and it's like probably not day one. That's gonna be probably a month. It's when you can get it. It's just English though. There's quite a bit of it around here, and since I've delved back into it, I crack English and stuff occasionally. I put a couple videos out here and there where I'm opening. I need to do it again.
I think I saw you open in some Crown Zenith 10s one time.
We just grabbed a few. They were everywhere. They were literally just couldn't walk into our target without tripping over them. Exactly.
Yeah. The Galarian birds were just everywhere. Every time we turned a corner.
And like multiple sizes too. There's like 2 or 3 different Galarian bird tins. It's like, geez, man. There's not
all I do is give you one pack and one more pack. Yeah. Like, okay, this one's 3, this one's 4. Good luck. Pay $10 more.
Whatever. It's a fun set, so it's not bad.
It's enjoyable. Yeah. That's actually my wife's favorite set. It's basically Crowns. Yeah. She loves it. She opens Scarlet and Violet now, and she's like, I don't like these arts. I don't like the silver borders. She's like, can you get the other ones? I'm like, yeah, okay, sweetheart. I'll get the other ones. Don't worry.
I kind of get it. I don't mind Scarlet and Violet, but it's definitely weird compared to what it's previously been. So I definitely get that.
Well, in that transition, I think you even made a comment a while back around when you start a new series and a new set, I should say. They typically pull back a little bit, and so they started off slow, and you're feeling a normal cycle. Yeah, it's a normal cycle.
They didn't do that though. They went hard to the core with like alt arts and alt art. They brought in a ton of stuff. Like they kind of did a little bit, but they still didn't, because previously like they're like, okay, we'll go back to full arts, what our archetype is, and then like EX, and they'll kind of do that for like a year. And they did that with the rainbows for Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield, but they kept it going for Scarlet and Violet. They're like, you know what, alternate arts for days, bring in, keep the character cards. It just, the excitement, it definitely doesn't pick up till like year 2, year 3.
Yeah, I think maybe what I was trying to articulate was more around perhaps some of the pulls and the pull rates that you typically see. We were seeing some pretty sweet pulls on Crown Zenith, and as you hit... we were in Crown Zenith. Oh, and I was doing V-Star Universe there at the end. So that's around the same time. Those were hitting really hard. We're like, wow, is this what it's like?
For pull rates, for sure, 100%. I was looking at people opening 151. The pull rates don't even look that good. Like, it looks like they're okay, but looks like they scaled it back a good little bit.
Well, and it seemed a little bit weird. I was watching a couple of people, and I saw ETBs look pretty good. It seemed to be kind of Charizard heavy. And then the booster bundles were like lackluster, and you might get like one or. I was like, I don't know. I might be focusing on ETBs for now.
We'll see.
We'll see.
It just, compared to the rest of Scarlet and Violet, just looked like the pull rate was like either brought back some or just from people's openings. It's hard to tell just from initial look, but.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we'll see though. But ETB has definitely got my eye so far, but we'll see where it goes. Tell me what do you do for a living? We talked a little bit. You dropped military here, but I don't know exactly what it is you do. What branch? What's your MOS?
I talked about it a little bit before. Not going into too much detail, but United States Air Force, and then I'm an aircraft mechanic, basically. Just work on aircraft. Not so much anymore. I've been doing it for a while, so I'm not super hands on anymore, but. Enough to still be around and out and make sure stuff gets done. So
you gonna pull for the 20 and retire?
I don't know. I'm being real. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that's going into that lately, and it's not necessarily so much like anything bad with like the work or anything like that. It's more just the possibility of what I could do with that stuff. Not with YouTube or anything. That's not even what I'm getting at. Just like things that like outside of work or. Anything like certifications or anything else that I've been able to get while I've been in, and just sometimes it's close, and that 20 is good. It does look very good when you think about that lifelong pension. And of course I didn't do the previous one where it was like you get like they changed how our stuff works a little bit. There was like a previous system. I'd still be on the old one, which would be basically the standard military retirement. I'm thinking about it. I'm not gonna lie. It's
how many years you got in? You 5 years, 6 years?
No, 13.
No. Oh, you're already 13 years in?
Already 13, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, you got to stay now,
That's why
dude.
It's a rough one. You don't have to. That's the thing people tell you whenever it's like something I've seen a lot of people make some good choices, like getting out. I've seen some dumb domes do some dumb things though. So that's one of those. You don't have to, but like people definitely, it's a nice blanket. Like say like something doesn't work out or something. I've never been in trouble, so
Right.
I don't have to leave or anything. So
You'll still be young if you finish 7 more years. You'll still be young, yeah. I was Army myself, so 11 Bravo Airborne Infantry. So it's Fort Benning in Georgia.
Oh heck yeah, I've been there. My stepdad was Army, and we were there for a little bit. We weren't in Benning, I don't believe specifically, very long.
Okay.
It was when we were young. I remember being like Fort Polk, Fort Hood, Fort Drum a little bit, Fort Knox, just all those places.
Yep. Good times, man. Good times. So you traveled a lot as a kid?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did my 4. I went in saying I'm gonna do 20. I was like,
I don't blame you one bit.
I'm gonna go to school.
That's perfectly fine.
I went to college.
Especially what they give you. Like you can make a lot happen with 4 years, and then basically the GI. I'm sure there's what you use.
Exactly. Yep. So it gave me everything I needed, and it changed it because I went straight from high school. So it was basically 18-year-old, stupid young, and it gave me some discipline and some structure that I needed. So it was definitely good looking back on retrospect. That's for sure.
Good cleanup, that's for sure. I was the same way, just straight out. It wasn't straight. I had like about a year where I was basically doing nothing. So
Target or Walmart jobs and stuff like that.
Rite Aid or fucking working the deli, shit like that.
Well, thanks for your service. I don't think I said it before. So
thank you for your service. Appreciate it.
We will jump into perhaps where you buy and sell some of your Pokemon. I know you're not a big seller, or at least you've mentioned that a few times, but where do you source a lot of your stuff, especially since you're looking at a lot of your overseas stuff?
So there used to be like a go-to couple places I would go to. It was like typically like a couple stores that was in Japan, or because I knew people who were stationed over there, it was a little easier to coordinate with people. Be like, yo, dude, you mind heading down to Yale Place and seeing if you can wait around at Pokemon Center for a little bit? So that used to be a thing. But nowadays, I don't really sell a whole lot unless I'm funding another card or trying to move something, or if I pull like a double or something. I actually, weirdly enough, on Instagram put up a penny alternate art. I listed that for like $40, and that's just going to go towards like another full art trainer I was wanting to get. I don't sell a whole lot, but I do buy quite a bit, and probably Instagram is actually where I would buy the most. Like people that do like claim sales and stuff like that, the community is typically where I will try to buy from now. eBay is okay if you're able to figure out who's actually selling you good stuff. And that's not always super easy. So like when people talk about like, oh, it's so easy to not get scammed on eBay, it's like, that's not necessarily true. There's people that can make really good looking listings and they can have a decent amount of feedback. And it's just,
they decided to make the switch one day, and that's it.
Yeah. Buy used to be better too. Like you really did. And then I don't know what necessarily happened. It's like either the money that people could make off Japanese cards or what. I feel like the sellers just had a massive shift in how they do things.
I've heard something similar from somebody else. Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it. They used to just be like it was real brief, real nice, real smooth transactions. Like you paid your money. They always would like kind of send something a little extra. Even if it wasn't a card, they'd make like a little paper, origami thing, or they'll put in like a little piece of candy, or they'd write out a note or something. They do all kinds of weird, cool little things that most people over here don't do. And then around like 2021, when I was like still able to get some stuff, I noticed like some of them kind of stopped doing that. And it more went to like how traditional sales happen here. Not saying it's bad or anything, just I've noticed ever since then, there's been a bigger push for reseals, proxies, fakes, misleading listings where they'll be like, yeah, this card's totally near mint. You get it. And there's like a crease on the back or so. There's like a big old white smudge around the edge of something. And it happens all the time. It sucks. It really does, especially when you've been looking for a card for a while and you're super pumped. You're like, man, I got this card. It's going to be great. And then you get it in, and you're like,
oh, Jesus.
Yeah, you look on the back.
You don't return it, right? I mean,
well, you can try, but like it doesn't always work out in that way. I'd say about 50% of the time you can probably return it and be all right. But even then, it's like, well, I have the card here. It took a while to find the card. It's
fine. Put it in the sleeve. Try to wipe it off, put it in the sleeve. Yep, that's it, done.
Yeah, to answer your question, I guess I mostly try to get from people specifically like in the community that I know.
Instagram.
I've been on Instagram for a while, so like 4-ish years, 4.5-ish years, maybe coming up on 5. And I've known some people on there for a while. So if people are typically listing cards or something up there or something, I'll try to pick up singles and stuff from them. I'd rather help somebody I actually talk to.
Community, yeah. Perfect. Yeah, and I've never actually bought or sold on Instagram. Would you mind just educating an old man? What does that actually look like? Are you
super easy?
Just like chatting and saying, "Hey, here's PayPal," and that's it.
Typically, what I do is I'll put it up on a story. I'll be like, "Hey, what's up, guys? I got this here, PayPal or however you prefer your thing. Just figure out a cost." Usually, I'll try to put like $10, $15 under what it is, and then throw shipping on it or something like that. I'll list it.
Right.
Wait for someone to respond. If someone responds and they're like, "Yeah, I want this card," throw them your PayPal. Tell them how you want it paid for, goods and services. Make sure they pay for it, and that's it.
Ship it out.
Send it, no problem. Some people like I do recommend getting a PO box though if you're going to be doing that like super long term. You just don't want your stuff possibly floating around
right to your house, right?
Yeah. Which
yeah.
If you're.
I think you're in danger always anyways, right? So
no, not me. Not really. Like, I see why you say that, and sometimes I do get some weird stuff, but no. Typically, I'm like the guy that people don't they kind of know I'm there. They'll kind of know I'll say some stuff, but like I feel like because I'm not specific people, they don't really take it too seriously. I don't know. Not usually. I also don't usually allege a lot of stuff. I'll be like, yeah, this is what this is. This is what this is. This is what this is, and here's how it is. Like it's more of a commentary type thing as opposed to like an
pointing the finger
rattle type thing. You know, like I'm more of a commentary page is kind of the bigger thing.
I see your point. Okay, all right, yeah, because we're going to touch on that perhaps a little bit later. But I was curious if you had some challenges there as you get out some content, because surely the people at times know it's okay. He's talking about me.
Yep. I mean, at the same time, like I keep my stuff open. I don't block anybody either. If they want to talk about something, they can. I don't really care. But typically, if I've seen it enough, I've typically also looked into it enough to be like, okay, well,
you feel pretty confident about what you're saying.
Yeah,
anyways.
you wouldn't create the video
in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah. There's usually a lot of things where it's like either the point I'm talking about is not some like they can be like, oh, well, this also happened too. It's like, well, I don't care about that. I'm talking about this. This is what I'm talking about here. I don't care what you did over there. This is and like it's like, well, you're not bringing this stuff. I don't care about that. What's this?
Yeah. It's typically a diversion attempt, right?
Yeah.
But no. Look at all this other good stuff I do. So okay. All right. Well, we'll actually transition that quite nicely into what I thought was one of the things I was curious about. So when I sit there and I watch you quite often, I wonder, how is he preparing for his videos? Do people just say, hey, Opossum Bud, look at all this stuff that we found? Or are you actually searching it out? What's your preparation process for a lot of this?
About 50-50. Sometimes I find stuff myself. Sometimes people will recommend it. It's just kind of what I'll go. Like I said, I browse Instagram a good little bit, and I'll typically browse Reddits. I'll looking around, shop at cards. Like Pokemon's what I do. Probably 60% of my free time just looking at like things and stuff like that. The other 40% either hanging out with the missus or doing something else. Like that's my big hobby outside of here.
Okay.
So about 50-50-ish. Some weeks more from people that are pointing stuff out. Some weeks it's topics I want to talk about. Like if I'll find something specific. Like today, the video I put out today was about the $400 Pokemon TCG Classic box Pokemon Center put up.
I didn't see that.
I just dropped it like an hour and some change ago. It's not. It's just I was like, man, because people on Instagram are a little talking about it. They're like, who's paying these prices for that? Who's paying $400? Who's doing that? Because in my opinion, it's a little much for what you're getting. Especially when
too high.
That's just my opinion. And I just made a video going like, I mean, I don't know why anybody's surprised. This is like a flippers game right here. This is what it is. They're going to take the cards. They're going to gut said product. They're going to grade each of the individual cards. No matter how you feel about it, whether you feel good, whether you think it's scummy, it doesn't matter. That's what's going to happen. And they're going to sell the box regardless. That's how it's going to work.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think I was watching. I think it was Zach, Nick, and Dan on their stream today. So Jim Mint was talking about it, and he had a pretty hot take, and it was pretty much the same. realize, this is way too expensive. And by the way, this is not for the collectors, right? This is for the people that play.
Yeah.
This is for the people that can afford it and that are going to turn around and try to make money. Because at that price point and for what you get, but this isn't for the people who actually play the TCG game.
Yes. Like no one's going to pay $400, in my personal opinion, and bust out those decks and shuffle them, make all the cards like played looking and all that stuff. Like no one's going to do that. And it's not that people don't want to do it. It's just how much money the Pokemon Center is initially wanting to do that, or how much you got to pay for it to get it from a reseller. Like ain't nobody going to do it.
Yeah, I looked at it. And I saw the I think notification on Pokemon Drops and Twitter. I was like, okay, great. Let me go take a look at it.
Yeah.
I took a look. And I paused and I said, the price? I said, oh, geez. Let me look at the pictures.
Too. I was like, man, did they like put the decimal point in the wrong spot or something? What is this?
I looked at the pictures and I was like, no. And then I waited long enough that it sold out. I was like, okay, well, fine. Perfect. I don't have to worry about it.
Out of my hands.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy though, because it did sell out. It sold out pretty quick. And I get where people are. There is a market for people grading and flipping. There always is. It's just it's more about why the Pokemon Center went about it the way they did when it very clearly is being displayed as like a player's premium set. It's just weird, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's probably going to be, if you do buy it as a collector, you would be on your shelf, and it'd be back here somewhere, and you'd never actually use it.
As much as I'm like, you should play. I wouldn't blame anybody for it because you paid $400 for it.
I might ask one for Christmas. We'll see if my wife will get it for me.
Get it for his gift. That's really the only way I'd probably open it up like that too. Is be like, if someone, which I wouldn't even want someone to gift that. That's like a lot of money. I'd be like, keep that for yourself. You spent $400 on it.
True.
Ridiculous.
True. Yeah, that'd be a bad ask.
I feel bad.
Looks like Nostalgianomics wonder where you got all those good fighting skills. I told Opossum in his comments.
From watching you, dude.
Wiglet, man. Wiglet took it out. I think Opossum, but almost fell down. I mean,
I did almost. He almost got me. He got me a couple times. No, that was just. I'm glad you were a good sport about that, because, like, honestly, that whole drama between the two of you, like, I like Poke knowledge. I don't dislike anything you do. I don't think I know you well enough to actually like be like really opinionated about you. I don't dislike you. It was goofy.
I thought it was hilarious. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, "Oh Lord." That was good. That was good. I mean, did you actually intend for the stand to fall down? That was just a fun accident.
Oh yeah, no, that was not supposed to happen. I just didn't want to film it again.
That was perfect, though. It was perfect. Let's go into then perhaps the next area, because if we talk about how you look at kind of creating the videos, one of the other things I often think about as I watch yours is, what is typically the aim that you're trying to bring to the audience that you're building the videos for? Is it more of a perspective of awareness? Is it also, I mean, as I said in the intro, and I think it's, at least I speak to it as truth, but you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
I think you're trying to look at that as a perspective to also educate the hobby and help make people educated decisions. So what is the aim that you typically try to work for, no matter what the video content really is? Some of it's humor, we get that, but but the other pieces.
Unless it's just a funny video, there is very rarely a video that I make about somebody that I just absolutely don't like them. There is a couple of exceptions to that. And it's genuinely because I feel they have done something or they have said something that I view as problematic. So let me put it this way. So pre-COVID, we didn't really have a whole lot of scammers that were kind of walking around in the Instagram community. There was some, but there wasn't really a lot of them. They would kind of pop up every now and again. You'd send them like your cards. They'd never pay you, or you'd pay them and they'd never send cards. You kind of say something about it to people, but okay, we're not buying from them again. And after that, they kind of popped off a little bit more. So people that did that stuff kind of had things they always did, and it would be like lie about stuff. They just kind of say things that didn't make any sense. They would be extremely hypocritical. Like they'd say something, but then do something completely different. Obviously that's the case for everybody, but they just had this list of things that they would do that would just come off as really weird, where they basically don't mean what they say. So I had a video very, very early on Instagram where I talked about someone doing that in particular with Champion's Path. The point of my videos usually is to give people a other side look of it. I understand how I come off. I understand people don't like me. I don't really care if I'm being 100%. I don't care if someone likes me. That's fine. I don't like some people here either. Not enough to be like, I'm not going to do anything. There's, like I said, there's only a couple of people, but I don't care. I just would rather people see something from every perspective they possibly can. If they're going to be sinking money or time or resources or gas or something into this hobby, because it's not the same hobby it used to be. It really isn't. It's not just a fun, happy-go-lucky, super easy to step into hobby all the time anymore. There are still aspects of it where it is, but there is definitely instances where like people are putting a ton of money, a ton of time, a ton of heart. People are putting like their businesses, they're like quitting their jobs, they're doing this, they're doing that, and it's
serious. Yeah.
It's just a shame to see sometimes what people can and will and won't do. So I'm never really like coming at somebody with the intention of ruining their entire career or life or anything like that. But in some cases, I do think some people shouldn't be here, but that's not the majority. It's mostly to just bring awareness of what's going on. Like, hey, I know people are saying this. You ever think about it like this? Like that kind of thing. Right. Unless someone's just blatantly scamming, then it's like, yeah, this guy didn't pay somebody.
Yeah, I saw a mix of all of that. And I said before, and I think we agree in some different words, but it definitely is the education aspect. Because if you don't know some of this is happening, and especially if the new people come into the hobby, and I was one of them not that long ago, you get scammed on things and you just don't know what to look for. And until you start searching for those types of things, you don't realize how much is there. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't realize this was even a thing. I'll have to be careful. And then of course that opens up the door for the next thing and the next thing. You're like, geez, I didn't know it was this bad. Yeah. But it was just different for me because when I was growing up, we were doing sports cars and you buy a pack, you put it in the binder, you trade it. That was it. Like there was none of this, at least not for the
another
kids.
Craziness that dude, sports cars is wild too. Yeah. I've seen some of the stuff that happens over there. I follow a couple of people like Dan the Card Man and the Sports Cars Radio and like stuff like that. Like I still follow them and like pop in on what there's going on in their stuff. Geez, it is just as bad over there sometimes, if not worse in some cases. I feel bad for them. Like in some cases, I don't think they have it all as bad, but
well, they have a lot more money floating around. And I'll tell you that.
Do. They have a lot bigger names in there too.
Yeah, I agreed.
Like a lot bigger people.
I meant to put this up earlier. He just said, "Nah, man, that's all good. It was hilarious." Yeah.
Yeah, glad you liked it. Once again, it wasn't ill-intentioned. It was just a little goofy. So I was made a little goofy too.
All right, man. One of the things that I also kind of think about, I was watching, you've only done one interview that I could find, and that was with, J-Love.
Yep.
And I watched that, and it was good. I enjoyed it. You two really clicked. You had a lot in common.
Yeah, Julian's the man.
Yeah. I hadn't got a chance to meet him yet, but he seems
like him. He's a good dude.
And I saw him a lot on the tours when he was going around doing some playing. He did some of the regional travels, and I think he even went to Worlds, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so. But when I watched that one of the things that you mentioned in that, and I kind of picked up on it, was you didn't originally have the perspective you have today. And I think it goes back to your comments about, pre-pandemic and it was different.
Yeah.
And so you kind of shifted your view. Were you more of a positive person prior to that?
I mean, I was very snarky still, but yeah. I did, like I said, back in the day, I just did a lot of pack openings and I'd talk about cards occasionally. On my Instagram, if you go back far enough, there are some videos I did back in the day where it was just goofy openings and goofy stuff that just didn't
funny stuff. Yeah.
Didn't really mean anything. I've talked about it before. There was someone on Instagram that I was friends with really, really well, and I knew them IRL. And they got kind of bamboozled by someone on Instagram, like for Champions Path pre-orders. I've talked about it a little bit before. And that's kind of what really pushed it, because it's, like I said, it wasn't that common. Like you'd hear about it. You'd hear about a couple things here and there, but it was mostly for like, okay, someone paid like $20 for some cards here or there. Someone didn't do this. Someone didn't get an $80 booster box, not like a whole $15,000 order goes missing. Not like, oh, someone's ordering from source boxes in Japan and the Japanese seller's like, yeah, F you, dude, you're not getting that. Like it wasn't stuff like that. And it wasn't like people taking like boxes for like 250 Champions Path ETBs. That was ridiculous at the time, because only like a few channels like Dirium I think he was like really the only fool I remember back in the day doing massive openings like that was like really successful on YouTube. Because I remember he'd have like the big over, like it's the really overhead shot, and it'll be like him and like either his wife, girlfriend, like team. They just open like thousands of packs. So like it was kind of unheard of still. There wasn't really a lot of content creators though either. That's kind of the thing. There wasn't as much stuff happening. Like people are like, oh, there's drama everywhere. There's all this stuff. And it's like, well, there wasn't as many of us either. I didn't make content back in the day.
Right. Did it start though around the pandemic? When was the first little bit?
A little bit before that, but yeah, like it's kind of when it had like precursors for it, but like in the middle of that time frame where it was still Champions Path time frame, like you saw some stuff with Hidden Fates where it was a little goofy. People were kind of doing weird things to get those tins, and people were doing shady deals with those and making sketchy trades. There was like somebody who was trading borderline garbage cards to like kids back in the day, taking like the shiny Umbreon GXs, shiny Charizards. They were trying to convince people that like these cards are better. That's like the craziest thing I remember back in like 2019 or something. It was like, geez, what a scumbag. That was as crazy as that got. But yeah, man, it really did change. Just a lot of money came in, a lot of new people came in, a lot of good people did come in. There's a lot of good here. Just there's a lot of new people. It changes things. It changes how things go. A lot of money flows in here. This is a lot of people's business and livelihoods. This is a lot of people's way they support stuff. There's a lot of stuff here. This is content creation. This is going up for big things. This is people's shot at not working 9 to 5. I get it.
Yep.
But sometimes people take it a little far.
Yep, a little too far. Sometimes
a little bit,
people didn't think it through. Didn't think it through. You know, when you think about that, and I think even you made a comment with Julian about you know, being negative versus positive, and it was a little bit of a discussion. And I'm typically a very positive person. Anybody who knows me, I'm just that kind of guy. That's just who I am personally. So I try to make people's day a little better, and just, you know, I'm there for a funny laugh, and, you know, if even it's at my own expense, it's fine. One of the things I wondered about is if you're always in the space of some of the content you're creating, do you ever get drugged down by some of the negativity? Do you does it hang on you mentally and weigh on your shoulders?
It used to a lot back in the day. Like when I first got started, it was very different just for things like that. Because before that too, like, I'm kind of snarky. I was in the military. I'm very sarcastic, but like I was never.
You have to be in the military.
I liked opening Pokemon cards just like everybody else. I like just cracking packs and talking about stuff and making goofy names for Pokemon and being like, oh, check out this card. Like that was kind of what I did. So for like a little bit, it was more. It did take a while. Like it did take a while to figure out what to do with it, because it's very easy for you to get sucked up in only doing one thing aspect of it. Like only talking about, it has to be like someone scamming people for this much. It has to be like this severe. It has to be like this, or otherwise like no one's going to like care about it, because it's not like, oh, he only got scammed out of $100 or like that kind of stuff. And then like, there's times where people didn't think something was a big deal. There's times where people started like heavily disagreeing with me. There's times where like it just, you know, your opinion goes out there. And when you're first going around it, it's weird.
It's hard. It could be hard. Yeah.
It drags you down. But as I've started doing this is my second year on YouTube, I think I've stopped caring. I'm going to put out I don't even care how many views something gets. I don't care if people agree with me or not anymore. I don't care if someone likes what I'm doing, but if I can do something to at least show people another side. And then like, I'm still going to open card packs and stuff like that too. I'm still going to have like goofy fun times and
have fun.
Things like that. I want to still go to Card Party, meet everybody who goes there, and try to get out a little bit more.
You missed it. Yeah. We'll come back to that, but you missed it. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah. I know. I think you got called in, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Duty calls.
Unfortunately.
But no, I asked because, you know, I've been in dark places historically in my life, and those things weigh. I mean, and the more you're in that space mentally, it can really take a toll if you don't change who you are mentally. And that's kind of curious. I was wondering how it impacted you and how you transition. And it's funny though, because when you go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I'm human too. I feel bad about things. I feel bad about, there's a couple of videos that like I felt kind of about making. There's a couple people I didn't talk about because I kind of looked at it a little harder and was like, maybe it's really isn't like that big a deal, or maybe this is like, I mean, I'm still a dude. I'm not like a heartless,
Not a robot.
shitty monster. Like just
military experiments, no emotions.
But I also don't care about some people's feelings about certain, and I think that's kind of what it is too. Is like if something's the way something is, then that's the way it is. Your feelings are kind of secondary to a degree, obviously.
Right.
But there are some instances where it's like, yeah, it kind of doesn't matter how you feel about this collection box. People are going to gut it. I don't care. Like, that's what it is.
And one of the things I've looked at a lot from a psychology standpoint is, we sometimes push away what is not like our own. So if I was positive and you were negative, you might say, oh, he offends me and I don't want to listen or talk to this guy. But instead, when you look at that, you actually need, the good and the bad, because you can't appreciate what you do have until you look at the other side. And you can see that whether it's in economics, the military, you name it, the personal relationships, the marriages. You need the good and the bad. If it was good all the time, it wouldn't be.
Yeah, there'd be no good times. There'd just be times.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's got to coexist. And you mentioned the part about not caring, and I think that's actually quite important, not in a negative way, actually in a very positive way, because at that point is typically when people become the most successful.
Yeah.
And
so I don't want people to think like I do look at feedback, I do read comments, and like there is a couple times I've been just flat out wrong about something, and I had to be like, oh shit, my bad. Like that's not what I mean by like I don't care. Like I'm just gonna like stick with something. If it's like an opinion, and I have that opinion. It's not like a important detail or something. Like it's like, yeah, here's how I feel about this, then I don't care. But I do look at stuff. I do read what people critique, and I do take what people say. Just to put that out there.
I took it more as you're not creating content for the purposes of maximizing views. That's what I took it as.
I don't care about that.
Right. So that's my point. Like in the early days, you may have created content and then went and watched the video and said, hey, how did it perform? Should I change what I'm doing? Like it's a typical, I would say, flow of how somebody would start the process. And to your point, as you progress through it and you say, well, you know what? I don't care how many views it gets. I don't care if it's good or bad. I'm creating the content for the reasons that I wanted to create it in the first place. Exactly. And that's the point I was making about, you typically find the most success when you reach that level. Because then you're not weighing everybody's opinions on impacting your views. So
for the people that watch it, I mean, if they're having a good time, like that, it doesn't, 20 people watch your video and 20 people liked it. It's still pretty wild to think about, like comparative, like people not making content before. It's like you could have said anything and nobody was listening. Now you got like an audience of 100 people, 150 people, 1,000 people, and like that alone is just nuts. And I think sometimes like it's easy, myself included, sometimes to just forget that there's people actively looking at what you say, and it's just crazy on its own.
We got a question from Nav Station. I think he's curious about your mic of choice.
Oh yeah, that's me being lazy. There's nothing to that. I'm very boring when I'm not like doing anything. Like I'm a super lazy, boring dude. This is purely because I'm lazy.
Minimum budget. But the funny thing is, I listen to your videos, and it's not like it's poor audio quality. It actually.
I'm surprised too. Like it's weird. I didn't think like anything. Yeah. Like
I got these things here, and you pay whatever $50, $100, whatever the number is.
You definitely sound better, but I will agree. Like it doesn't sound as bad as you would think.
No, it's the same one that probably came with your phones, right?
Yeah, it's just the same one. I had 2 sets of them. One of them busted recently. I had an old one way back in my first face cam videos. This is the newer one. I don't know.
See, okay, there you go, Nav Station. He upgraded to a new version. You see?
Yeah, so yeah, it is a newer. It's not my one that I was toting around for 4 years. This is like 9 months, 8 months old.
There we go. So there is upgrades, Nav Station. Perfect.
A little bit.
Perfect. Rolling it back to kind of where we were. Tell me, has there been any negative outcomes other than the comments and people maybe disagreeing? But has anybody really lashed out at you, try to really advance you in person? Has there been any threats?
Oh, in person, no. That's half me not being able to go anywhere, and half, even if they did, I don't care. Like, I mean, what are you gonna do about? That doesn't bother me. Like that kind of stuff where someone like rolls up on you like, hey, here's what I think about your stuff. It's like, okay, well, what do you?
Good for you.
Whatever, I don't care. But did it change anything that happened? Well, here's what's this and this, and if they want to talk about it, that's fine. But like, no. There has
It's
been
never been an
people that
issue.
have not really. I can tell people don't like me. Like there's certain people. Like if I went to Card Party or if I went to somewhere, I know for a fact there would be a handful of people that are like bigger content creators or something like that. Obviously, not everybody. I'm very thankful that Pat and Sean, Ryan, Rev, Nick, all them guys, they talked to me a good little bit. Rattle, everybody who's Julian, Danny Fant. I talked to a good amount of people, so I'm kind of surprised they still talk to me because I have done like videos on. It wasn't anything like that bad. I was just kind of critiquing a couple of things they did, things like that. Like I know for a fact I'd go there and some people would be like, "Oh, this Joker's here."
This guy, oh
yeah, that guy, and I wouldn't be mean to them about it because I get it. I'm a difficult person to kind of like at first if you don't really talk to me or anything. I get it. I understand. Like I'm away. I understand.
Yeah. If you couldn't take some of the verbal feedback in a constructive or non-constructive way, you might be offended. But I think a couple of beers and you'd be fun to hang out with.
Be fine. No worries. Pass that.
What about some of the positives, man? What have been like some of the best kind of feedback stories, or somebody's come up to you and said, "Hey, thank you so much. Because you did this, it made this difference for me." Do you have any of those moments that really make you say, "Wow, I'm glad I'm doing this"?
General everyday stuff. I just am sure. I try to respond to as many comments as I can. I'm just surprised that people they like just the videos I put out. That's always great. Just reading people liking it, having a good time, putting it on when they're working out or something. That's great. The biggest one I can remember was back in like 2021. I was still making content on Instagram back then. I got a message from somebody who told me that they knew somebody I was talking about in the video. Like they were going to try to buy cards from them. And they stopped and canceled that order or didn't go through with that because they saw the video. And come to find out, they were still scamming other people. And because of that, they ended up not getting scammed themselves. It's kind of one of those little things where it's like, that's the whole, I don't want someone to get screwed over here.
Yeah. Makes it all worth it.
It's just little things like that, or just listening to people. I don't really have like it's just people saying, "Hey,
lots of good feedback."
Even on Instagram too. Like all I do is post pictures of cards and show like, "Hey, check out this artwork," or like something. Like Instagram is very relaxed me now. I don't really do a whole lot there.
You do most of it on YouTube.
Yeah. Right? Okay. Even that's like kind of scaled back from what I used to do.
Oh, really? Yeah. I have to go back and find some of those. Okay.
Yeah. Some I used to swear, like I do swear a lot, but I used to like, I don't know how to say it. I used to be a real aggressive motherfucker. I used to be real bad. Like I used to get heated.
I didn't know. I saw you get angry a few times, but not that many. But to be fair, I probably watched most of your recent ones for the past year. And then some of the early ones. So I probably missed some of the spicy stuff in the middle. Yeah. So I have to go check it out.
Yeah, some of them aren't that great. Some of them are okay. Some of them are it's hit or miss. Some of them are not good looks for me. I still stand by what I said, but I probably could have said it a little nicer when I think about it. That's really it.
Yeah, I wonder what you're gonna do when you look back in 30 years.
That's gonna be like cringe. Maybe like an 80-year-old dude just be like, "Oh, I thought that was cool."
I'll tell you what. I'll save a couple of the mics that I have, and I'll make sure I send you fresh mics every 2 or 3 years, so we can keep this going, man. We'll keep it going.
I like it.
I can see it in 80. Yeah, 80 years old. I love it.
80 years. I don't know. I've thought about that. Even like 35 or something like that, or like just when I'm 4 years from now, I wonder what it's going to be like.
So I'm sorry, you're 26?
Oh, I'm 32. I'm
32.
Older.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm an older dude.
Not too bad. I'm 42, so I got some years on you. We got confirmation here from iFOMO. He knew you were holding back. You were holding back.
I'm pretty sure they've been around. I'm pretty sure I've recognized them. I think they've seen some of it.
So he wants you to be your full potential, Nick. Full potential.
No.
So we'll change gears a bit. Tell me, what is your thoughts? I know you mentioned it in the beginning. I've heard some comments in different videos, but I think it changed, and it being grading. You used to, I think, be a fan of CGC.
Oh
You
yeah.
used to collect some, and that changed. You kind of backed away recently. What's your perspective on grading nowadays, and where do you see that?
All right, let me put this out there first real quick. So if you want to grade your cards, I don't care. Just grade your cards and do what you want. A lot of grading companies, they are still grading the same. They're still doing things. They're trying to get cards out and get good quality stuff and get your cards back to you best they can. Grading is objectively, for the most part in the hobby, purely for people to encase them and possibly certify their value or their grade for resale or holding on to them at that value at that moment. These grading companies know that. They know that's why a good chunk of people do it. And I feel like I gotta be careful because I'm not trying to like shit on anybody. I don't care what the grading companies think. It's more like I don't want to insult how like a person feels about grading. Because I actually care about what regular people in the community like us think. It's more like I don't feel like they can do what they used to be able to do as wide. I feel like the more discrepancies are popping up. CGC is a weird example, and it's mostly because like I did used to be a really big fan. I used to have all kinds of cards graded by CGC, and I didn't grade them personally myself. I bought them from somebody in the Instagram space. A good chunk of them came from a dude named Gengar Gang, and I'd buy some here and there. He just always, if he didn't get a 10, he would always just sell it for cheap. He was trying to get like perfect cards, so he'd go through and he'd get a bunch of them. And if something didn't come back at 10, he'd be like, "Hey, who wants this card?" And I got a lot of good deals because of that. Yeah, 100% every time. I was like, "Me, send that over here." The card altering thing came up. That's where a lot of the stuff like really started going into it. Rattle did a video discussing card altering. I looked a little harder into it. And then there was a specific company, I'm not going to say who, where they were using a product that specifically on their website basically described as being usable on sports cards only. Like it's for glossy cards. I saw people putting it on their old vintage cards, and people were like, it's doing the exact same thing. Old vintage Pokemon cards don't have the same glossy protective layer. Even new cards do. So that was something that I put out there, basically calling it sketchy. There's an instance where there was someone who was bragging about selling to CGC. They're sending to CGC with that stuff. I made them aware of it because they took a stance against altered cards, and it still made it through, even though I talked to someone at CGC. It's very similar to how Shiny Vert, I don't know if you followed what happened with his stuff.
I did, yeah.
It's very similar to that, like almost like how he was talking to CGC for a while. They stopped talking. They said some stuff, and they didn't follow through with it. That may not be people at CGC's fault, but it is still someone who is a representative of CGC saying that something will happen, and nothing happens.
Nothing came back.
They make a lot of CGC is the loudest. They say a bunch of things to try to break away from the mold of grading. And I get it. I understand. You want to do stuff that's different. But when they've been called on this twice now about like what they claim that they can do, there's instances where it basically just comes back and they're like, we can't do it. I don't care if someone grades with CGC. I just really think people should reconsider putting money into something that you don't necessarily know if you're getting the quality of product back that they're claiming they can give you. It's been documented legit twice that they can't do it as well. I don't care about like horror stories and all that stuff you see on Reddit and stuff like that. There's legitimate instances of where people have filmed this stuff has happened twice. PSA is dropping the ball where it had the penis on the fucking the what was it, the Alolan Persian, I think is what it was back in the day, where they drew it and that somehow made it through. BGS like it was doing upside down cards for like a long little string. There was like a new upside down BGS slab popping up almost like every week. And the thing that they always say is they're like, we have several different people that are QA evaluators that actually look at stuff. And as someone who works in a career where quality assurance is heavy, they actually follow through with what we're doing. There's also several people that verify what we do. And it's important for you to catch that kind of stuff. And for there to be this many instances of this much stuff, I think they're spread thin. It's not that they don't want to do good jobs. It's just they can't do good jobs because so many people are sending in cards to grade. They can't They can't keep up.
Yeah.
They can't do what they're claiming they have to do with their current capacity. And I don't want people to lose money on something that isn't. I want another perspective out there on the whole grading sake. I will not be grading because I don't personally trust them. I will never unfollow or, say crappy things about somebody who wants to get their cards graded for whatever reason they got. That's on them. I just want people to be aware that grading companies are just. It's a hard topic to discuss. It really is because it's so close to what people hold for their cards. I don't care if you grade them. You just deserve to know that these instances exist, and maybe these grading companies can't do what they claim. That's really it.
And anytime you see that, and I think you bring up a really good point, because anytime you scale a business where you're first scaling for the purposes of profit, before you can handle the process and handle the people and the demand, something suffers. And it's typically quality. It's typically the customer. You typically have a lot of turnover. It starts to go downhill really quick. So it's a very difficult balance for a company that wants to do something good and then tries to grow massively. And if you don't do those two things right, it can be a disaster.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think it's a really good point. And I was listening to the other Nick, Old School Pokemon, today.
Okay.
And he brought up a really interesting point around grading during the pandemic. And I would like to get your take on this. Sure. Was really a key factor in a lot of the hobby growth. Now, whether that's good growth or bad growth, we can discuss that, right? But without that, and I think a lot of his references at that point in time, I could be wrong, but I believe he was also referencing the whole Logan Paul thing. And of course, that was heavily on not just the box breaks, but also the grading of some of the cards he had. And so without grading being there, his point was that the hobby wouldn't have seen as much growth as it has seen. Yeah. And I said, I never considered it from that point of view. Have you looked at it that way before?
I've heard that before, and honestly, I definitely see where it's coming from. Not necessarily so much because people like the grading of the cards or something like that, but I definitely do think it has a lot to do with whenever the pandemic was coming around. Some people were having a harder time. Some people were going through the ringer. Some people were losing their jobs. Some people were not working as frequently, and money was a big thing that people needed. And I'm not saying it's bad, but Pokemon cards in general, just it's not even an argument. They just shot up in actual value across the board because it was just they were either being bought up because of hobbyists, they were being rediscovered. People were kind of thinking, hey, maybe this is something that's happening. We got Logan Paul stepping in here. We got bigger influencers. And I think the grading companies also knew that too. I think they saw that opportunity as well. And they were very much oh yeah, we can totally handle all these new cards coming in. Imagine the money we're going to make off this stuff. I agree with that take though, because like I said, objectively for a lot of people, there's nothing wrong with it, but a lot of people grade their cards to either cement value or to increase value, or the grade itself, which the grade does have an implication on the value. It's not good. It's not bad initially. It's just a fact. That's what it is. That's how the market works. It's how people view those cards. I agree with that. A lot of people saw that as a appraisal of what that card should be worth. Yeah.
Before this one scrolls out of my view and I forget, this came up when we were talking about your mic. Okay. So we'll get your nurse to hold it up for you when you turn 80, apparently. So just let me know what nursing home you go to, and I'll send you the new mics there. So
my legs may not work, but my arm sure will. That's for sure. I'll still be holding this mic. The legs may.
We'll get you a little boom arm, just a little boom arm, just a little clip.
Dangle it down or something. I'll have one drip for the IV, one drip for the mic.
Perfect. But no, I do agree with you on a lot of those points. And one of the things I think Alex from Nostalgianomics has talked about recently, and I've kind of seen a little bit of it myself. I haven't done any deep dives, but I've seen the costs and the selling prices for grading really start to drop a lot lately.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, are we heading back to more traditional? And I was at Collecticon here in Charlotte, and I think I heard more than a few people say that obviously binders are really picking up. So, having several binders at the tables, letting people look through raw cards is really a huge, taker in terms of having people walk by, picking up a lot of small things. It's just really easy and people are looking for it.
Yeah.
And I watched at the Collecticon, and I saw a lot of people walk up with their binder, look at somebody else's raw cards, buy it, and slip it right into their own personal binder. And then that was how they transacted. That was what they wanted to do. And so I can definitely see at least some smaller trends there that perhaps wasn't as prominent a year, 2 years ago.
Yep.
Do you see that fading a little bit and heading back towards more traditional binder type of raw collecting, or what have you seen or noticed?
So I'm not an expert really on like grading all that much just in general. I do track a good chunk of it and all that stuff. So I can't speak for a ton of it where it looks like maybe it's going down, maybe it's going up. It could just be people don't want to deal with the time of grading anymore. Maybe it's just easier. Maybe it's just binder season right now. I will tell you this though, in the Japanese market, I don't know if you've seen this lately. There was a little while where PSA 10s of a lot of cards were just being like heavily coveted by the Japanese market, like being either bought up or sold. There's a lot of speculation for where it was going, whether it was coming to our market, it was going to the Chinese market, the Japanese sellers themselves, Korea, where they were going. There's a ton of stuff and there's a lot of things you could say about it. But the fact is there was a huge uptick in PSA 10 sales in Japan for a lot of like really weird full art trainer cards that at one point were really cheap, certain black and white era full arts, things like that, promo cards that were, you know, not too crazy, but you put them in a 10 and all of a sudden now they're just the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
That's dropped lately. That's actually been a thing that's dropped lately over there too, like PSA 10 prices and just kind of raw single prices for some of those cards in general have gone down. Not all of them. Some of them are still kind of doing their crazy stuff, but a lot of them have kind of dipped a little bit. And what's weird is sealed product has started going up. So like I have a couple of them, but the Poncho Pikachus are like the cosplay ones. There was an instance where we were kind of looking around a little bit, and I don't know if it's 100% true, but like it comes in a box and it comes in a plastic wrapped seal where the card is in there. There was an instance where like those were going for just as much, if not more in some cases, than a PSA 10 copy of that same card. I haven't really looked too far into it, so it's not 100% for sure, but it was something that my wife, Virginia, she showed me, and I looked a little bit further into it as well, where like the sealed version of that card, because so many people graded the card, it could just be rarity, could be scarcity, could be a lot of people, you know, have graded with PSA. Maybe people just like the feel of raw card. Maybe it's immediate. You can just take the card and snap it in your binder. And it's like, I immediately completed this collection. Like I don't have to send it to PSA, wait 2 weeks, and then I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think even Alex made a point about that today or yesterday, I forget. But I watched something. He mentioned around the fact that some of those are the sealed's going up while the raw and the graded cards are going down. It's an interesting dynamic, and I think that touches your point as well. Yeah, I don't know.
Weird.
It's strange.
I don't know 100% why, but it is happening with certain things, like for sure. It's
who knows? Who knows? Well, we'll keep it. We have about another 30 minutes or so. We're going to make sure we get him out on time. He's got to work tonight, unfortunately. So unfortunately, don't want to keep him too late. So we'll move through a couple of these a little bit quickly. But I didn't want to leave this area without asking you about your perspective on quote unquote, you know, Pokemon investing.
Oh yeah. I'll be the first to say it. Like,
yeah, please.
It's weird because it's a line that can be crossed really, really easily. In my personal opinion, it's like, because there's nothing wrong with holding on to product. There's nothing wrong with banking on certain cards, thinking this is going to do great. This is going to be a popular card later. This toy will be super cool later. There's nothing wrong with that necessarily per se, and the process of investing itself. That's why like Danny Phantom and like other people that talk about it too, like them themselves just talking about that stuff doesn't bother me. It's more what people will do in the names of investments sometimes.
Right.
Like there'll be people that I remember the Ultra Premium Collection for the Charizard box when it first was announced. There were people like, this is going to be insane. This is going to be nuts. This is going to be just the craziest. And like some people did some really weird, sketchy things because of it. Like there were people that were like trying to like, this $400, you better get this now. This is the investment of like the century or something like that. And look, I'm getting it. I understand no one can be right every single time. I get that. But like the links some people are going to specifically for that product just to see the aftermath of it now is like, and I do think one day that product will probably be kind of niche, kind of cool, kind of have a little bit of value to it. But
It'd be some years from now, though. Yeah.
just what that went through, and that's not the first time I've seen that. There was people talking also about, and so that's another thing too. Whenever I talk about stuff, I'm not a huge English expert on a lot of stuff. I've been heavily into Japanese stuff, and I need to be better about it, but I'll kind of generalize just investing in general. But there was a lot of new Japanese investors that would pop up, and they would be just flat out wrong about cards sometimes. They'd say the wrongest, dumbest, stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I'd be like, and people are taking advice like y'all are listening to this guy that doesn't even know what card he's looking at. I did a video kind of about it recently. Some people thought it was like kind of nitpicky, but it was like, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about, and he wants you to spend money. He's talking about your money about a card. Like what?
It's funny because I watched your Charizard video today.
Yeah.
Ironically, I watched it.
Yeah.
Oh, let me see this one. I watched it. It was hilarious. It was hilarious.
Appreciate it.
But yeah. But no, I would agree in some of the perspectives. And I think it's an important point to differentiate a lot of the things, at least that I'm perceiving and interpreting from your videos. And it's not always the concept, or whether it's investing or it's grading or the things that we talked about that you're necessarily against or dislike. It's the things that people do within that and making poor choices within those spaces in the sake of, stepping on somebody else to make their own. And that's when things go too far. And I think that's really a lot of what you try to convey.
Yeah.
But if you don't pay attention,
I'm bad at it, but yeah.
If you don't pay attention and you just kind of get offended and you stop listening, then you kind of miss the point that it's not, hey, all this is bad or all investing bad or all grading's bad. It's when you do these things and you hurt other people, for example, then it becomes a problem. And that's a lot of what you speak to many times. Yeah. Did I get that right?
Yeah, it comes off a certain way sometimes. Like I said, I gotta get a little bit better about it, but I don't like that. There's a reason why I can follow certain people and it's fine. Like I can talk to Poke Knowledge. I can watch a couple Nostalgianomic videos about Modern. I can watch fucking Danny Phantom talk about that stuff. I can watch a card opening and I don't get mad when someone throws sometimes it'll be a little egregious if they put it up for like every single card, the price, like, hey, I pulled this card, it's worth like every time. And I'm like, okay, man, I get
10 cents,
like,
20 cents.
Yeah, like,
yes.
it's like, all right, dude, I understand. But like, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not bad in itself. It's just sometimes people, if that's the only thing that it matters to, and that's the only part of it where it's good. And I mean, there's people with specialty channels for that too, and I'm not knocking it. I'm just not that guy. And sometimes like I'm not really the person to get that perspective from, because half the time I would be like, I don't know, do you like the card? Cool. Because that's how I operate. That's not how everybody does it. And there's not anything inherently wrong with that if you're being fine and fair to everybody. It's just that's how I operate. So that's my opinion. And sometimes I'm an opinionated guy, and I'll be like, "Oh, this is how I do it. I don't know. Do it how you want. I don't care. But like, this is how I think about it."
I think that's why we all come to watch your opinions, because they're fun to watch. It's good. It's good stuff. You wouldn't have a continued growing channel and people giving you, I would say, if I had to guess, probably 98% positive feedback on what you do. If they didn't like what you were doing. So yeah, keep it up, man.
I appreciate it.
Let's skip a little bit over to the Pokemon fakes. So there's a recent announcement and Pokemon wanting to crack down on this. And I love the idea, and I hope they do, because I've been one of many situations where I've gotten something and I'm like, oh god, this thing's fake, or I bought a binder collection and there was fake cards in there that you couldn't tell, and because you can't check 1,000 cards before you buy a binder.
No, absolutely.
You typically check as much as you can, and then you get it, and you're like, oh, okay, well.
Yep.
In theory, it's nice, but it's gonna be hard to execute upon, I think.
They're gonna have to like specifically. It's like you're saying, it'll be hard. Like unless there's a very good process for doing it, like an actual almost automated, perfected process in the future. I don't really know how they'd widespread do it. It would be like individual person here, like they go on Buy-E or something. They're like, hey, this guy's selling like a gold metal card of like a VMAX Charizard that doesn't exist. That's very much how it seems like they're gonna have. Maybe they'll hire a few people. I mean, Pokemon's got the money.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll just be someone's full-time job.
That's what I was thinking. It's like, okay, if you can do it a couple of ways. You can go after the companies that make them. Okay, that's one easy out. Then what's next? Well, then you go on the major buy platforms, and you have to dedicate some resource to look through what exists to say, okay, fake or real, fake or real, fake or real.
I'm not gonna lie.
Then,
like if they were paying me, I'd do it. Like if I was getting like a livable paycheck that was like kind of decent, I'd be like, is it okay?
No problem.
I do this in my spare time anyway.
No problem.
Whatever, man.
But and sometimes it can be hard. Like you would have to say, hey, I need more pictures. This one's flagged for a maybe, and I need to see something.
Yeah, be like a pretend buyer or something like that. Be an undercover buyer. Yeah, you could do that.
But I would love to. I would love to see that actually play out positively for the community.
I would too.
It's sad.
There's been a lot of instances of bad cards like going out, and you hate to see it, and it's especially like hard to see for people that don't know, because they'll be genuinely excited about their card, and like it's usually kids too. Like back in the day for like play events and things like that, it broke my heart, but I had to like tell them a lot of the times, be like, hey man, like you got a fake card. I don't know who gave that to you. I don't know if it was like a sibling or a friend or something, or maybe you just found it. And it sucks, but you don't want them to like go through, keep getting fake cards
and then like not understand it. And I had to tell my son, my older son, 8, his best friend, next door neighbor, gave him a card, and he cherished it. It was one of his first Pokemon cards, and I think it was like a gold Morpeko.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And he gets it to me, and I look at it, and I don't say anything for a while. And then we start collecting. We get more cards, and I get more context, and I start learning. And I say, son, I'm sorry to tell you this, but the card you got from your best friend it's fake. I would say keep it, as a sentimental thing, but just know that it's fake. Don't trade it to somebody else. It's something you're just gonna keep in your binder, and that way she doesn't think you lost it. But it's not real. What do you mean, Dad? Yeah. So, well, here's what it means, and you can kind of look at it. That's where it
sucks having to tell them, sometimes people make cards and they're not real, but they do it because they don't have, like, they want to make money off it's a hard topic. Yeah.
Why would they do that, Dad? Yeah. Not. I think that's easier than other topics for kids, but
they're not good. I don't know. they made a bad decision. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we can have many hard conversations with the kids. I think I'd rather have that one than some of the other ones that will come as we get older. Yeah, that's easy. In comparison. One of the other things I was thinking about recently, I heard, and I don't know if you know too much about this, some of the crackdowns happening out of Japan and selling. So I heard recently that a lot of the distribution and the stores are being locked down, and if they're selling outside of the country, they're going to be banned. And is that have any truth to it? Have you heard anything on the ground?
I'm still looking into it a little bit. There's a lot of hearsay with it. There's a lot of things that are not 100% unless you're in the inside that know. I would say probably a couple of those things are true, where they're looking at like where boxes are going and where they're coming from, because a lot of the prices that were getting egregiously up there were borderline like 5 times the price, and Pokemon was getting complaint after complaint after complaint, I'm sure, about it. Just for some person in Pokemon to be like, I don't know what we sell them here and we sell them for retail, and then like we kick them out to these distributors for like retail, I'm imagining too, or close to it, or like maybe a little under or something.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, I imagine they're probably getting some of that. I know they are looking into where stuff is going, and I know they're looking at what people are charging for stuff versus like actually cracking down on fake product, resealed, scammed, and stuff like that. Whether or not they're actually going to start locking down stores, and I'm still not 100% on it. I could see them doing it just to maybe have a little bit more control of it, whether that's good or bad. I don't know.
To be determined, right?
But I could see them wanting to do that just because of the amount of backlash the scalping of Japan has received.
Yeah, it's been an interesting story to unfold, and we'll see what happens next, because it could either be something to kind of cool the flames, or it could just be gas in the fire. I'm not sure which one. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Predicting Japan and their market and what they're going to do is hard. It's very difficult because it's influenced by so many different outside factors, whether it be the United States, whether it be the Chinese market, the Korean market, their market themselves, what they're interested in, like the full art trainer thing. And I hate being like that, but like it's that's another video I made that's kind of controversial. Is like I am 100% one of those people that like Twice Baked Jake capitalized heavily on that. Whether that's a good or a bad thing is up to you. I don't necessarily think it's a good thing, but objectively, he was one of the first people to like bring that to the mainstream attention. It's like, these cards are going nuts. So look at this card versus like this one. It's crazy price. Look at these weird exclusive ones. And as someone who collected Japanese trainers and seeing like a card that I got for like 25 bucks, I was like, what the hell? It's like 250 bucks now. what the because there was a couple of them I was missing too, and I was like just going through picking, like I had to
yeah, it stopped you probably from completing some sets, I'm sure.
Which I don't have anything against Jake, really. Not I could talk to him in like a space. I think some of the stuff he does is kind of goofy. That's probably it's I know I kind of went on a different tangent. Just I know he was talking about Japanese investing and like predicting the market a little bit for that, or what he thought that his takes were on that. That's kind of where it segued into it. He was big on certain Japanese topics and trends for a little while, and I would agree with him on some of them, and then some of them I didn't. I've
caught a few of his videos, but not many. I haven't got as many of his videos.
He's not a bad guy. He's just weird about what investment topics he wants to talk about sometimes, and how much enjoyment he has in sets is a little goofy. He's allowed to have his opinion. It's just, so are we.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we'll transition it here for a few more, and then we'll bring it to a peaceful close.
Hour 16 already. Jeez.
I know, right? Good times.
Yeah.
I was not a person who's even ever went on Whatnot, so I don't know anything really too much about it, to be honest, and as far as personal. But I've read a lot, and I've watched a lot unfold. And I mentioned this to Danny in the last call, and it was I just don't see how a company can come back from that kind of distrust. I think they're trying to repair the damage, but it just, they can't get a bottle or a top on the bottle here.
I don't know if they're going to be able to either. They're still going to be okay because a lot of people do sell on there. It's not just cards either. Like Funkos are pretty good on there. People do like clothing sales. People do like books. Collectibles like Star Wars.
I didn't realize.
Other niches are on there too. It actually started out as like a Funko big thing, really big.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't sports cards or anything like that first. Like Funko was a big one there first. So
and you would just bid. You would just bid like eBay.
It works just like how it's advertised now. You start a bid. Typically, the goofy thing was you started out as $1. People would determine how much it would go for. And in itself, that's not really a bad thing. Just with everything added to it, 2020 was huge for it, because I remember being the first person on Instagram, at least, to publicly be like, yo, Whatnot's kind of wild. Have you seen what some people are doing with like celebrations and god dang, like Champions Path packs right now? They're going for like $30-$35 a pack.
Ooh,
and of course people were like bidding on them. Like it's not like it was like the seller 100%, but like they knew how it was working, so they weren't blameless. They were still being like, okay, I'm good with this going for $40, whatever. I don't mind. It's like, no, dude, you took the box and you put it on there and you knew what it was. It's the buyers don't like whatever. Like people could do what they want, but I remember that's how it popped up, was right around the Logan Paul-ish time frame, slightly later than that. I think the website had been around for like a year before that, like 2019-ish or something is when I think it popped up. And they were just like Funkos and like other things for a little bit. But then like that popped off. They started getting creators in there, and people started making some ridiculous money off of just Champions Path, because people were all trying to pull the Charizards. Shining Fates was a big one, obviously, for Charizard and Shinies as well. Celebrations was pretty big on there. I remember like about a year later, something like that.
Did you ever buy anything on it?
Oh, no. I've never purchased anything on Whatnot. I have people that I am friends with on Whatnot, and I if I want something, I'd just be like, hey, yeah, I'll buy something from you. I don't prefer. I do have an account to observe things, but I don't shop on there.
That's one I don't think I'll create an account for. I'll skip that one. I'll just wait and see if it lasts the next 5 years, and we'll see what happens after that.
I suppose after the whole Blake thing, maybe they could, if they're dead serious about a couple of the things they say, because a couple of the new implications they're putting on there are good. It's just if they actually follow through with it.
It's good implementation of it. Yeah, it's always the thing. In theory and writing, it all sounds good. Now show me.
In theory, Whatnot's a great platform. In theory, it is. Like it's awesome. The other thing too, I made a video about it one time, and Pokey Chloe commented on it, and she said apparently I still am figuring it out, but apparently depending on where you do Whatnot, it's very different. She said that UK Whatnot, and I've heard it from a few other people, runs very different than how ours runs. Like it's still the same concept and the same thing, but they don't really have quite the same problems we have.
Interesting.
Like we don't have people like doing lines of substance off of things, and we don't have people like
Christmas tree dust,
blatantly swapping Umbreons or something. Like, apparently, it's just not that extreme. From what she said, I'm still figuring that out, but apparently, it's just different everywhere you go.
Yeah, and many times with the technologies like that, they tend to run them in each of the countries, and for data separation and privacy issues. So they'll typically keep it within the country. So I guess that could be the case. Yeah. All right, man. Well, let's take a look then at just your forecast on the hobby. Obviously, you've been in it for a long time, man. You've seen a lot unfold. I mean, you're almost an old man now. So
I'm getting there. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts real bad.
Wait till you get the gray hair like me. But tell me, where do you see the next 5 years? How do you see the hobby unfolding? Where do you think we're going to be?
I've thought about it a little bit, not 100%, but I could definitely see the hobby kind of losing traction a little bit. I could see people just getting kind of burnt out, getting a little fed up. The money, I think, will always kind of have a new cap of where it's at because of just where some collectibles were hyped to, what people have, just the amount of content that's been formed around it. You know, people type up a card, they'll be able to be like, oh, this content creator was talking about this card for, because someone brought that up too with like Beanie Babies at one point. They're like, oh, Beanie Babies fizzled out. It's like, yeah, well, there wasn't fucking 10,000 people online also talking about it, making content either. Like, a whole bunch of things have changed.
$30,000 box price of Beanie Babies.
I definitely think it could recede a little, though. I think it could definitely lose a little bit of traction. Maybe the Pokemon company will be a little bit more hands-on with things. Maybe they'll kind of be a little bit more controlling because they may have to be at some point.
Yeah.
I think we'll still be allowed. I think we'll be around, and the hobby will be still good. I think we'll still have a good chunk of people here. We'll still have content. We'll still have people going, playing the Worlds. We'll still have people playing the games. I'll still be here, hopefully. I'm hoping.
I know that Danny mentioned it, and I saw it myself when I went to the regionals. There was just so many people, and Danny's, from his point of view, it's growing and it's growing and it's growing. 1,800. I mean,
that's insane for like that. Like they were always like packed, but never quite like that.
That's only the Masters division.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome.
That's good. You like to see that.
I think it's going to grow in that sense, but I definitely would anticipate a stabilization. And I'll call it that, because I think we're still coming off that hype of what was left and old card prices and the old metrics that were there. So I think they're starting to fall a bit.
Yeah, everything's still kind of new-ish, and for the spike. So once it's been around a little bit more, people have more knowledge and stuff. Maybe it'll stabilize.
Until we get to the end of Scarlet and Violet and we do it all over again.
Until we get to fucking Pokemon 30, then it'll be.
That's right. Yeah, we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
Come back for the 30th. We'll have a new Jake Paul coming instead this time or something.
Michael Jordan will be the next one. Don't worry. It'll be Michael Jordan doing Pokemon, and that's what it'll be.
That would actually probably break this place, honestly.
Oh man! So tell me then. We'll move it into the last few. Who do you look up to in the hobby, Opossum?
I look up to a lot of people.
Like your inspirations. Yeah.
A lot of people, actually. There's a few people that are like my go-to. Like, I'll always look up to J-Love. Julian's like a really solid dude in the community. He's a really just stand up guy for a lot of things that are Pokemon. Crystal Collects is someone I look up to a lot too as well. Like I'm friends with all these people and talk to them, but she's been doing the multi-language Pokemon thing for a long time. And she's been around even when people were like using Korean cards and all that stuff of being like fake. She's dealt with a lot of stuff with that. And she's educated a lot of people on a lot of solid places and things to get cards. She's been a really big person for that. I look up to several people, but like just I think a lot of people do things a lot better than I do. So I mean, even like the people I do like a podcast with, like Rock and Professor Metri, Dusty, and like Alex and all those guys. I respect the hell out of them a lot. Starman. I respect all those guys. There's so many people. I respect the bigger tubers for doing what they're doing. It's a cheesy, generic, stupid answer. It's just
but it's the truth.
It's hard. There's a lot of people that do a lot of good things here. There's a lot of people that put stuff out. I respect the hell out of Ryan, Cool Train Ryan. I respect the hell out of Rattle. Like I will always be like he's our go-to investigator type guy. Like Ryan's our go-to Pokemon entertainer. Like I put on his videos half the time when I'm just like at work or something like that. But I'll put on a lot of people's videos too. So
like I watch a lot of Ryan's.
Yeah, if I'm just at work, I'll probably put on some videos. I'll probably watch a couple of the other podcasts you did actually tonight. I'll see what everyone else is going on.
Yeah, check them out if you want. Let me know, and always happy for some feedback as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Always trying to improve. But I think Ryan. He has a wealth of knowledge. He's a great entertainer. I love it.
He knows.
But he has a wealth of knowledge, man. I mean, he just lets you see a little bit of it. Yeah. Man, the guy's so knowledgeable. I did get a chance to meet Rattle. He was at Collecticon, but I just didn't get a chance to chat with him.
Yeah, he was busy slapping fools around there.
I watched that 2-hour long conversation. Oh Jesus, man!
Yeah,
that was something, man. That was something.
Yeah,
I don't know what the point was actually going to be at the end of all of that conversation. Like, okay, I listened for 2 hours. What is it you wanted to achieve here? I don't know that I got it because
I don't know. And that was the whole point of my video too. Is like I don't really know what like this is an embarrassing take from you, man. I don't get why you uploaded this.
So we'll then close it with 2 questions. We got just a few minutes here, and again I want to be respectful of your time.
Oh, no worries.
So I typically ask 2 questions as we close the podcast. One of them for you, just kind of personalized, and one more generic one. The one for you is, what would you advise somebody starting their collecting journey, but trying to help them steer clear of some of these dangerous roads and deceit and greed and distraction away from what make them perhaps even leave the hobby? What would be your advice for that person?
Man, there's 2 things that you really should do whenever if it's for you just collecting and you having a good time here. You need to be humble. You need to actually be able to be like, okay, what do other people know about like cards here and stuff like that? Because I know a lot about a certain topic about cards. I don't know anything really about English vintage. Like I know like sets and things like that, but like specific like errors, rarities, pull rates, card tricks, like how rare some packs are. Like the old stuff, like I don't know anything about that, and it's the same with all that stuff. Like steering clear of like bad stuff. You need to be around people who are willing to help you and share that knowledge too, because like that's the biggest thing is knowing what something looks like to keep steering clear from it. If you know what it is, you can generally identify it for yourself and be like, oh, stay away from that stuff. And then just do it. Collect. It's a big thing because I was guilty of it too, man. Like, and it's a really crappy, cheesy answer, but it's 100% true. You gotta like have stuff in your binder that you like. You can't just open your binder and be like, oh yeah, look at all these cards. Yeah, they're cool, and like this one was popular, this one was hype, but I don't necessarily like it that much. Like, I mean, yeah, you got a cool binder, but like, how do you feel about it? It's right. I definitely started to do that whenever I had to make sacrifices for like doing like for price and stuff like that. I generally started collecting a specific kind of card or picking up things where I could, and then I was a little more open to other types of cards like English, Korean, simplified Chinese, Indonesian, any of that stuff. Where if you like it, put in your binder, dead ass. Like just because then you'll open your binder every time. You'll be like, oh, check this out. Check out
This
these
is
cards.
awesome.
Check out those.
Yeah.
And you maybe
Yeah.
get rid of a couple of them. You got to do something. Life happens. I mean, you still have cards that you like, and you still are, trading away things that you like. It'll mean something a little bit more. Just arm yourself with knowledge, man. Just get as much knowledge here as you can. Listen to everybody's opinions, not just mine, not just yours. Like, dude, listen to what everybody here has to say, because you'll probably learn something from everybody.
And the more you take in, the more you can definitely process and make
the more
your
you can
own
help someone else
decisions.
too.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can build on it too. You can be like, oh yeah, I saw them talk about this, but what if this also was happening too?
Take
like, you can build on
add
it.
that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
That's what community is.
Exactly. He said the C word. We're in trouble.
Community.
All right. We'll end it with this, Nick. One day we're going to leave the hobby.
Yes.
Whether it's gracefully or forced.
Sure.
And what legacy do you hope to leave in the hobby, Opossum?
I just want to make people feel like they had a good time here. Just want people to watch videos and take a little bit of time out of their day, feel a little good about stuff, take their mind off some other stuff, just have a good time. I don't want people to watch videos and look at cards and just be not having a good time with this place. If somebody laughed at something I said, or somebody at least had a decent watch, whether they agreed with me or not, that's enough of a legacy for me.
Perfect. Leave it better than you found it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Clean up a little bit. Grab a couple pieces of trash and take them out with you.
That's right. Well, Opossum, again, thank you so much for your time, man. I deeply appreciate it. We're going to let you get off to your day, and unfortunately, work. I wish you could relax and enjoy your night.
Too.
But
Liza P just came out too, and I was trying to play that, and I was like, man, you're really cutting my day off, man. But all right.
That's what I told you, man. You could pay you double time.
Yeah, that's
double time.
Yeah, no, no worries, man. Appreciate having me.
I really do wish you the best tonight at work, and of course, I hope to stay in contact. If you haven't already, we have Opossum's channels all linked in the description. I'm sure you've already checked them out, but if not, feel free to do so. And also stay tuned. We got lots more guests coming up in the weeks to come. We always appreciate everybody's time. We look forward to seeing you on the next one, everybody. Thanks so much.
Sick.